College Gym Kids fan going live on YouTube. College Gym Kids fan going live on YouTube. Streaming live on YouTube. See, I go to the Streamium app for the DVR on my Amazon Fire Stick.
Champion going back to the final. South Carolina wins it 67-52.
Presented by H&R Block. You're looking at the D.E. Smith Center. It is senior night. And this is the ACC on ESPN.
I got Saved by the Bell on that
These
DVR.
two blue bloods come into this game not fighting for a championship, not looking to lock up a high seed, but rather just trying to give themselves
I'm just deleting Young Sheldon on my DVR. I'm not like putting Young Sheldon on YouTube because I'll get a copyright strike.
You have any assault and battery. COVID-19 virus. Without rheumatoid arthritis is hot.
But when the locations of all these crimes were entered into a new computer program, police learned more about the perpetrator than they were prepared for.
Okay, I'm going to start with Kidnap Kids Parachute.
Step out of the car, please.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
It was shortly before noon on Sunday, April 16th, 1989, outside Tyler, Texas. Stacy Henderson and her 6-year-old friend Joshua Oliver had walked down the road to return a video game to a neighbor. They were just a few hundred yards from Stacy's house when the unthinkable happened.
I'm scared it might happen to me, so I just started running back, because if I didn't start walking, he might have got out of the car and grabbed me too. I ran to Dave's house.
He was out of breath and we weren't really understanding what he was saying. And then for some reason it just hit me that Stacy had been kidnapped. After he got his breath back, he was able to tell us it was a white man with brown bushy hair and it was a big brown car. It was bigger than his mother's.
Immediately, Dean Mullins went to look for her 7-year-old sister, Stacy, while their adopted mother, Velma Henderson, went to call for help.
911, what is your emergency, please?
Dispatcher Tammy Macklin took the call.
Okay, what is your name?
The first call I got was from Mrs. Henderson. She couldn't give me very many details because there was a 5-year-old with her daughter when she was kidnapped, and he was the one they were getting their information from. It was real sketchy.
A white male?
I was scared to death if they waited, he would be so gone, we couldn't get him.
Time makes all the difference in the world on a call like this.
Miss Henderson, I'll have deputy out.
642.
I worked a section of that county on that Sunday morning, 15 to 20 miles away from the location where Stacy was kidnapped at.
Deputy Stephen Duncan headed to the scene.
Several years back, had a girl get kidnapped out of a church, and they found her dead later on. It's not very often that you find a kidnapped victim still alive.
Dee went to the Alsh's house, where Stacy had been headed, to see if she was there.
I was hoping that it was just all a bad joke and, she was down there. And I asked her, I said, is Stacy here? And she said, no. And I said, oh my God, somebody's cracked her. I think that's whenever I panicked. Oh God, this is real, this isn't a joke. Some nutcase has got her and that's my baby sister.
Jack and Lois Alsh immediately went to see if they could help.
The entire family jumped into our car and we went roaring out of the driveway, back towards the Henderson's house, knowing that someone had Stacy, but not knowing who it was.
We didn't know any direction of travel that the suspect may have taken Stacy in. There's nothing but back roads in that part of the county. Nothing but back roads, dirt roads, blacktop roads. He could have turned left instead of right.
It's a big county.
Smith County Yard Units 1063 records.
That's why when something like this happens, we pick up the phone and we notify all the agencies we can.
Deputy Bobby McGee responded.
Myself and Deputy Brewer were assisting another officer serving a civil paper when the call came in to Deputy Duncan to proceed on kidnapping charge. So myself and Alvina Brewer went ahead and proceeded out.
Okay, Josh, I know you're real scared.
While Jack carefully questioned Joshua, Lois relayed the information they were gathering to dispatcher Macklin. Jack then went to gather neighbors for a search party.
I knew that if they didn't get her quickly, that they wouldn't get her, that they wouldn't find her, not a lot. So I started calling neighbors. I just got the phone book, I called one by one every neighbor I could think of and told them briefly what happened and asked them to please get in their vehicles and just hit the roads because we didn't know which way they went.
Stacy been kidnapped.
As I went house to house, and as my wife called other people in the area and alerted them, there were probably as many as 40 or 50 people out on the road.
And all of a sudden there was a lot of traffic around the Andersons. Some would drive around for a while and then they would come back to see if anything had happened.
They just seemed like they materialized out of the trees. We couldn't imagine how they had all learned about it so quickly. We were certainly glad they were there. And
Yeah, these Rescue 911 episodes are on True Crime Network.
We talked a
Justice
lot.
Network.
You know, we was walking down the road and the thing, we were talking and we were trying to convince each other that, you know, she was gonna be okay.
There was just so many things running through my mind. Where is she? Is she okay? Had he killed her? You know, had he molested her in some way? And everybody always thinks, well, something like this doesn't happen to your family. I got news for them. It does. It happens. And it can happen to anybody, no matter where they live, whether it's in the middle of the city or the sticks. It can happen.
When we continue,
It's like somebody reaches in, you know, pops your chest open and grabs your heart and just yanks it out.
This is a first.
Stop suffering.
Treating her.
It took us about 15 minutes to get to the location where she was kidnapped at. The first thing I asked was who saw the incident. Josh, you said your name is Josh? Josh, come on back to my car. I need to talk to you. Just a second. Joshua said he had never seen the man before. He had never seen the car before. Brown four-door? Yeah, what was he wearing, Josh?
A blue shirt.
He said the man had black hair, blue shirt, blue pants. While I talked to him, he never cried. His voice never wavered or quivered. Smart little man. Did he have a beard, mustache, anything? Right here? Is it a mustache? Okay.
He has none but he hadn't shaved for a few days.
Okay.
His hands and fingernails were dirty.
Real dirty, like dirty grease. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put that on the radio. Josh, he's real good, okay? Josh was very clear in what he had told us about what the suspect was wearing, which enabled us to intensify our search more. 646.
It's like somebody reaches in, you know, pops your chest open and grabs your heart and just yanks it out.
Smith County Law Units 1063 reference additional information.
Suspect is a white male, approximately 6 foot, dark brown hair, will have a mustache and some facial hair. Suspect will have dirty hands, should be wearing a blue shirt and blue jeans, driving a large brown car.
following proper police procedure, deputies Brewer and McGee set up a stakeout at a key intersection.
We had decided to stop every car that came through.
We got the burn vehicle coming. I guess we'll stop.
As soon as we pulled in behind him, we noticed him accelerate. He was coming up on the stop sign. We turned on red lights and sirens in an attempt to stop him. He accelerated more. He went about 2/10 of a mile and he turned again at a very high rate of speed, and so he was making a climb. He missed the turn. You could see him headed toward the ditch, and he couldn't go anywhere else. He was stuck there.
Get out of the car! Hey, get out of the car now! Miss Anderson, there's no kid in the car.
Dee and a friend followed the deputy sheriffs to the scene.
And anything we kept telling each other, you know, she's all right, you know, they got her, that we were real scared to death.
I did not see Stacy anywhere near the car. The first thing crossed my mind was that Stacy was dead or hurt. I walked up and asked Deputy McGee where was Stacy. Deputy McGee told me she was in the patrol car, in Deputy McGee's patrol car. So I went over there and asked Stacy if she was all right. I picked up my arms and held her. We're not supposed to let our emotions come in contact with our work, but in a situation like that, it's hard to do, especially with young kids. You just can't do it. I recognized the suspect. He had lived in our neighborhood for several years. I had a girl that's back then was 6 years old, and knowing that this suspect lived in the same neighborhood as my family, it really got to me. Because it could have been my girl.
This reminds me of that episode where Shannon and her sister Rachel were playing outside by their apartment complex, and a man kidnapped Shannon, and Rachel went inside and told her father, Daddy, somebody kidnapped Shannon. So this Rescue 911 Stacy being kidnapped episode reminds me of another kidnapping episode on Rescue 911.
And sentenced to life in prison. Stacy returned home to her family.
Everybody's running up to me like, Stacy, are you okay? And what did that man do to you? And all that. I felt real gone. And she was my friend.
Nearly a year later, Stacy's life is slowly returning to normal.
Well, she's a bit nervous. She doesn't sleep as well. She still wants to sleep with me all the time. She doesn't like to go to play with anybody. She wants them to come to the house. Doesn't like to talk about the kidnapping. Still upsets her, but she's loosening up a whole lot.
Josh is a hero to me because he ran back to my parents and told my parents so the police could arrest this man.
Josh had enough presence of mind to get the description of the suspect.
Looks like they're having a bonfire.
He's what saved
Towards
Stacy.
the end of
It
the
wasn't even a
episode.
quarter mile from our house, no, she was just barely in sight from us. The one thing that my family learned, you have to watch them, because you never know what's going to happen. And you're the one that's put on this earth to protect them. You know, if you're not there, who's going to be?
Next.
She turns into a rag doll, on her back starts to spin and starts accelerating away from her.
There has never been
Stump backers helped us reconstruct the... When you're falling through the air at 100 miles an hour, a life or death emergency can arise in an instant, and there may not be enough time to solve it. A team of stump backers helped us reconstruct the very decision of the moment that changed the course of a life on Good Friday of 1987.
A 2 to 3 mile jump to Earth is a soaring pleasure for a skydiver until the horizon line or an insistent altimeter beep warns it's time to pull the chute. On April 18th, in the crystal clear desert air of Coolidge, Arizona, hundreds of skydivers from all over the country had gathered for what they call an Easter boogie. Instructor Greg Robertson was one of the loadmasters that day.
I was on the hangar floor, and I watched this lady having trouble packing her rig.
Next,
Look,
Rescue
everyone's supposed to
911,
know what
True
they're
Crime
doing.
Network.
We'll have untrained students there. So I went up and talked to her and figured out that she was relatively inexperienced with about 50 jumps. And decided, well, I better keep my eye on this one. A little inexperienced, make sure she at least knows what she's doing in the air. She's gonna kill herself or kill somebody else.
31-year-old Debbie Williams was preparing to jump as part of the last group, a six-way round formation.
One of the groups that was together was the six-way, but relatively inexperienced people. I was acting as the loadmaster and spotter for the aircraft. The formation that they had planned was well within the experience level of that group. We were all going to join hands, forming a circle, break apart, each do a 360-degree flat turn, and rejoin their hands.
Until their parachutes open, skydivers fall at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. Even when jumping from as high as 13,500 feet, like Debbie's group, a diver has less than a minute and a half to safely maneuver into formation before the chute must be opened.
Come on, hang on, I got it. I give about a second, I hop out after her, and start diving down, I check her out in the air. She's in a good track position, real good body position. And I set up about 70 feet out from this three-way that's already built, watching these people go in. And watching Debbie, she starts orbiting. She's not making it in. She's gotten down there, but she's not making it. She's just orbiting around. All of a sudden, this other dude comes into formation, hits it, funnels it out, and they drop down a couple of 100 feet below us. The other two jumpers, Debbie and Guy Fitzwater, started diving towards this formation below us now. And I guess she's not watching really where she's going.
The impact was as great as a 50-mile-an-hour car crash. Debbie was knocked unconscious.
She turns into a rag doll on her back, starting to spin, and starts accelerating away from me. Where we've been doing probably 110 miles an hour, she's probably accelerated up to 130. Guy got initially knocked over and then righted himself. So I decide, well, she needs help. And I go into a no-lift dive, trying to get up to about 200 miles an hour.
Greg caught up with Debbie less than 30 seconds from impact.
I lift my head out of this dive and take a look, and I notice there's blood all over her face. And I'm thinking, I'll just let her body swing around and bring the ripcord to me. And all of a sudden I realize I got absolutely no idea how high above the ground I am. Look out of the side of my eyes real quick, and I decide I've got enough time to do this, but I got to do it now. I drive on in as the legs swing around, grab her with my left hand and sit her up so the rig will deploy cleanly, pull the ripcord and say, that's your shot.
Greg finally managed to open Debbie's chute less than 10 seconds before they hit the ground. Emergency medical technician and avid parachutist Dean Baker had come to watch the boogie that day.
And there I saw a woman at about 100 feet gliding down, and her arms were at her side limp, which is a clear indication that she wasn't in control and wasn't prepared to land safely.
Already unconscious and heading for an uncontrolled landing, Debbie was going to hit very hard.
When I got to her on the ground, I noticed that her face was totally covered in blood, and I noticed a gurgling sound out of her mouth.
Okay? She had a pre-fall collision and had to pull a reserve on her.
Dean immediately took charge of Debbie's treatment. Her swelling stomach indicated severe internal bleeding.
I also noticed that her blood pressure was dropping, so I elevated her feet to treat for shock and asked for some mask trousers or something to stabilize the blood pressure.
Dean then came up with an idea that helped save Debbie's life for the second time that day.
There was nothing there at all except a thought of inflatable leg splints.
He improvised and used the inflatable leg splints to stabilize her blood pressure.
You're gonna be okay. Here comes the ambulance, girl. Come on, guy. Okay, tell them when I get it.
The paramedics arrived and took over prepping Debbie for the helicopter ride to the hospital. Debbie was rushed to the hospital semi-conscious, where it was discovered she had sustained broken ribs, a lacerated liver, and a punctured lung, and was in shock from the loss of blood. Without the quick thinking of both Greg and Dean, Debbie would not have survived.
Everybody tells me I'm a hero. By the definition that I heard, I saved somebody's life, I'm a hero. I'm a hero. I simply do what I feel is necessary.
As far as I'm concerned, he did put himself in danger because he was thinking about saving my life rather than pulling his own parachute. If Gregory hadn't been there that day, I would be dead now. I would have bounced.
2 years later, Debbie is married. She and her husband Bill live together in Hawaii, where she's a teacher.
Friend
I'd like to make
describes
another jump this weekend,
seven-year-old
and I don't believe
kidnapper.
that
Skydiving
another accident.
See, it says 8.3 Justice Network,
Two times to the
because
same
it used to
person.
be called the Justice Network. And then last July, they changed the name to True Crime Network. Okay, this is Player Down on 911, and it's also Dad's Baby. Football player suffers cardiac arrest. Dad delivers baby. Okay.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Unless indicated, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
True Crime Network.
At some moment in our lives,
Next,
most of us
let's
will face
get
an
on
emergency that demands all our strength and courage. I'm William Shatner. Each week on Rescue 911, we bring you true stories of people in trouble and the real-life heroes who come to their rescue. We begin in Springdale, Arkansas, on a muddy high school football field. The game footage you're about to see was taped on November 7th, 1986, as time was running out for a promising 17-year-old player.
The students are in force and of course this year a big crowd are the Springdale Bulldogs have just come onto the field running through their stop Fayetteville banner. This is the last regular season game for a lot of these seniors. Starting guards are Marty Reynolds, 5'9", 172, a senior, and Joe Downer, 6'4", 215, a senior. For the Bulldogs, a tackle, Phil Van Hook, 6'2", 244, a senior, and Craig Douglas.
Mackenzie was too nice a guy, and he really cared about everybody and was really a super nice guy and wouldn't hurt anybody for anything. And I just kept thinking to myself, why is it happening to him? You know, why not somebody else?
The Springdale Bulldogs sent all of their seniors to be co-captains.
The week prior to this game, his grandfather had suffered a stroke, so Mackenzie had spent a great deal of time at the hospital to see his grandfather, and this was his last high school game, and he wanted to do so well. I'm sorry. And I know that put a lot of stress on him.
When we continue,
Mackenzie Phillips was clinically dead on the field. No pulse, no breathing.
Dennis. Release technology.
There are lots of
Score Springdale 8, Fayetteville 7. Brad Jenkins takes a snap. He's got a hit and knocked down by Mackenzie. Springdale leads with 4 minutes 16 seconds remaining in the third quarter of play. Here's a pitchback going back. Number 23, Jenkins. And who does he find but big Mackenzie Phillips, 6'6", 257. He, the senior at many colleges, are looking at as the 42-yard line. Again, Jenkins rolling. Wants to pass. Now O'Keefe.
I was playing right quarterback, and the play was somewhere up the middle, and I just remember going up past him. His eyeballs were all white, and when we went in, it was really bad.
It is Mackenzie Phillips, and they're still working on him.
I looked up where my husband always sits in what they call the crow's nest, and he was leaving, and I knew that it was very, very serious, because Lloyd had always told me, no matter what, do not come on the field.
Well, now they're asking for a paramedic.
I really had no idea what happened to him. I thought it was probably his neck, you know, or his back, because he was real still. So, and I got on the field. You know, I heard him say he wouldn't breathe.
Mackenzie's parents were down near the field and they're continuing to work
I
on
know that God can do anything that we ask him to do, and I asked him to take care of Mackenzie.
his dream was to play for a major college and go on to play in the NFL, just like his dad.
It's really a rare thing that you see a football player go down from cardiac arrest. Mackenzie Phillips was clinically dead on the field. No pulse, no breathing.
Emergency medical technician Johnny Ray Baker was doing chest compressions on the boy.
There was no sound at all other than what I heard in the immediate circle of people that was working on the kids that fell. She could have heard a pin drop in the stadium. It was kind of uncanny.
I did sympathize with Lloyd, who was Mackenzie's father. I could tell what he was feeling, the hopelessness and helplessness of what he was feeling.
Someone gave a thumbs up or something, thinking that the worst was over.
Whew.
But at that time, he still hadn't regained a spontaneous pulse of his own. His heart was still in a fibrillation.
All of a sudden they pull out that adrenaline needle, give him a shot in the heart, and they pull out the shot things, and that's when we knew something was bad wrong.
I was afraid of failure. I was afraid that in front of all these people, that if we do not get him resuscitated, that it's going to be very bad. We all became very emotionally attached to the situation, and we were really putting forth our effort.
My role was primarily doing the external cardiac compression. But once you start doing compressions, the only time you can quit is physical exhaustion, or if the doctor pronounces the victim, it's dead where they're not going to survive. So you go until you can't go any longer.
Baker had been pumping the boy's chest for more than 15 minutes when the decision was made to transport him to the hospital, even though they had not managed to restore his heartbeat.
You took in 7 players. Coaches. This game is suspended. We have 3 reporters.
What you end up doing is just praying that, hey, please don't let him die, please don't let him die. And you think in the back of your mind, what am I going to tell the players if he happens to pass on?
Cardiologist Joel Carver was waiting at the hospital.
Mackenzie was brought into the emergency room to a major trauma room. We assessed that he had no effective heartbeat. He had no response to the appropriate medication that had been administered at the football stadium. He was given additional adrenaline or epinephrine, and then another attempt to electrically convert him to a stable rhythm was attempted. This also was unsuccessful. His mother was there in the emergency room during resuscitation, and that she held his hand as his chest was being compressed. And after about 25 minutes and no effective heartbeat, she squeezed his hand, leaned over, whispered into his ear, "Mackenzie, you can make it. I love you." One additional medicine was given, and 3 minutes later, his heartbeat had been reestablished, and he had a normal blood pressure.
Though his heart had stopped beating for more than 25 minutes, Mackenzie suffered no heart or brain damage. The extraordinary efforts of all the people who worked on him had made a difference.
Everybody was fabulous. The EMTs who never stopped, all the doctors who were at the game who came onto the field, the people at Springdale Hospital, the police who got us to the hospital. I just couldn't ever thank them enough. Why you can thank anybody for your child's life.
Really expressing word, my deep gratitude for those guys. I mean, there's nothing that I can say but thanks. A man would give CPR for so long that it would cause himself to have a hernia.
Football
It's really
player
amazing that
suffers
he cares so
cardiac
much more than
arrest.
the person that he did
Dad
not even know.
delivers baby.
I know all parents everywhere, they look for their children. That's the bottom line. The farm, the cattle, nothing matters but your kids. My father and I, he's like a big boy. We compete for a lot of things. We compete for the biggest steak that Mom cooks at night. we wrestle for it, we'll arm wrestle for it. You know, we work out together. He's a lot of fun. He's not only my dad, but my best friend a lot of times.
Under medication for the asthma that caused his heart attack, Mackenzie will follow in his father's footsteps and start a tackle for the University of Arkansas.
I took life for granted. I took breathing for granted even before I was on medication. But I did not know that I had this problem as severe as it was. A lot of times I think, you know, I think about
He's running around by the football field for exercise.
One day I was with a friend of mine at practice, and we were just so tired, it was so hot, and there was this kid that came to practice that couldn't walk, and I just thought, God, you know, what a goat I am to be, you know, a bitch, just because I'm tired of practicing, and here this kid is coming up, he can't walk. And if I can get that boy to study, I'd be so happy right now. But like I told him, I'm glad he's here, but I'm right there.
I'm deleting it from my DVR because it's almost over.
Hi, have you ever heard of Beachbody on Fix? And this is for free.
Coming up next on True Crime Network.
8 a.m. Rescue 911, 9 a.m. Rescue 911, Dr. G Medical Exam.
The most extreme emergencies call for the coolest heads and the clearest thinking. But sometimes you have to take what you can get. In the early hours of September 3rd, 24-year-old Sharon Bachman had to settle for her husband, David.
In trouble sleeping.
I woke up about 1:30 in the morning, and I woke up thinking that I was having cramps. After 2 cramps, I decided that they weren't really cramps.
She was already a week overdue with her third child.
It's time. Okay. My wife woke me up and said it was time. And I thought, okay, plenty of time. Time means time to get up, you know, do my little running around bed and go to the hospital. It's time. With the other 2 kids, I was in there, but I wasn't a coach. I didn't want to look because I'd get queasy and I'd probably go to the ground. My mom wanted to be there, so this time she was going to be the coach.
Now Rescue 911.
Okay, it's time. When I talk to my mom, I said, you know, I'll call you about an hour.
Next Rescue 911, True Crime Network.
While he was gone,
True Crime Network
I just
Justice.
had one constant pain. He doesn't know what to do, so I'm telling him to call 911.
I still thought that meant, okay, well, that means we gotta leave for the hospital now, not an hour from now, but now. And then finally got through to me, now, she's having a baby right now. So that's when we call 911.
911 dispatcher, Richard.
Fire department emergency.
Where's the baby now?
Okay. Stay on the phone. I'll be right back with you, okay? Okay.
Nancy, we have a childbirth in progress. We need you.
I called for Nancy to come out and assist and talk to him to give him instructions on childbirth if necessary while I dispatch the units to his address.
911 operator Nancy Furman took over the call.
Sir, has she delivered yet?
She's upstairs, I'm downstairs.
Is there any way to get a phone near her, sir?
Yeah, I'm gonna disconnect this thing upstairs.
Okay, I'll wait, sir. Call me back and we'll disconnect.
He did not want to sever that telephone line. I mean, it was like, if he lost me, that was it for him. I mean, you could just tell the panic.
Fire emergency. Hi.
Where's the baby?
Has she had the baby yet?
No, but she's moving one right after the other. It's coming.
For contractions or one right after another?
Right after the other.
Okay, listen to me. Ask her if there's some time. Call her.
It's coming out now. I see it.
You see it crowning? Where is your wife at? Is she on the bed?
I gotta see the head.
Yeah, that's good. Is she on the...
Where was she? She can't move.
She's on the toilet?
Yeah.
Go get her off the toilet and get her on the...
Yeah, the baby is coming out.
Go get her on the floor.
Get on the floor, here.
Go help her. Go help her and then come back.
From here.
Okay.
thing gonna happen. The paramedics are gonna get there before this child is born. I kept crossing my fingers for that. Like, please get there.
It's all right, it's all right. Don't worry about the tunnel. Have you ever seen a baby born before? It's like a big clear bag from it. Yeah, that's the water. Don't sweat it. That's great. It's a head inch. How I do? Listen to me. Is the head out? What? Is the head exposed? Okay. With each contraction, I want you to place your hand against her vagina and apply firm vaginal pressure to keep the baby's head delivering too fast and tearing her.
We have cards that we use that lead us through the different steps for each emergency that calls in. And I read fast, but she was having that baby faster than I could read.
No, it's great. You're doing fine. I don't want her to tear herself. Don't encourage her to push so much. I want you to do gentle pressure to keep the baby's head from delivering too fast. I want you to push against her vagina. Okay, that's great. Congratulations. How far is the baby out? Entire baby? Well, that's wonderful. Now tell me, is the baby dry? Is the baby breathing? No. Okay, I'm going to tell you what to do. I want you to get a dry towel. That baby's going to be slippery. I want you to get that dry towel, clean out her mouth a little bit. Is it a boy or girl? Hey, this is important. Okay, we want to clean out her mouth. You're doing fine, sir. You're doing fine. It's a boy. Congratulations. Okay, now what I want to do is I want you to support that baby. No, there's trouble here. I know. I want to get the baby. I want to hear that baby crying. Careful if I can. The baby's like, coughing. Start to cry. Well, that's good. Trying to clear it this way. Excellent. You're doing good. Think of the stories you can tell this kid later. What? Think of the stories you're going to tell your kid later. Okay. Well, it happens sometimes. Oh, well, yeah, I can understand that. Don't worry about it now. Okay, has she got a big enough and warm enough towel for that baby? Okay, good. Okay. Oh, yeah, I can see it, yeah. You did a great job. Okay. I know, isn't it funny? Well, why don't you, I'm going to let you go since the ambulance crew's there and make your wife comfortable, and they'll help you the rest of the way, okay? Thank you very much. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
The happiest moment was when the call was over. It was overwhelming. We all felt very excited for him and with him. We all were there, in a sense, holding his hand over the phone and listening to that experience, unlike any experience I've ever had before.
Diary is on trying to have children, so this was even made it better for me. In my career, a lot of times I see the lows of people's life, and this was something where I got to see the high. And I got to listen to a baby cry. What a way to have a baby. I mean, yeah, if you get past the fear, it's such a natural, wonderful thing to happen that I hope that he will later look back and realize the joy he got to have with his life. They'll never get to do that again that way.
When paramedics arrived 7 minutes after David's call, they quickly determined that Brian Allen Bachman was a healthy baby boy.
Can't put the experience into words. It's almost like I have a child. Almost, if he could say how a mother feels by having a child, I came as close as a man can get. As close as you can get, I feel.
Okay, baby, let's get off there. I'm getting the app card.
I look at David different because I didn't think he really had it in him to deliver the baby. I thought for sure he was going to pass out, and he really didn't. He came through when I needed him the most. My son, he knows where the baby was born and what had happened. He says that 911 helped have the baby.
Very good.
The tape, word. I mean, a lot of people say, you know, well, look, listen to this guy, what a jerk. But if you put yourself in those shoes, most people do the same way.
Your Kidnap Kids bored and wants to play, but that can mean trouble when you're away. Now, reel in the fun with Flippity Fish, the exciting new cat toy that keeps Kitty entertained all day with hours of play. Just like a fish out of water, Flippity Fish's realistic flopping action instantly attracts your cat's inner hunter. They'll pounce, they'll prey. It's a natural instinct that never goes away. It's motion activated, so when Kitty gets near, the flopping fun automatically turns on. The tail speeds up and slows down, surprising Kitty when she least expects it, so she'll never get bored. Old cats get fat, and that's not healthy, but Flippity Fish's non-stop fun will turn even lazy Kitty into crazy Kitty. No matter your cat's age, it will be as playful as a kitten again. Made with strong, durable material, Flippity Fish can withstand the most ferocious attack. Even when Kitty catches the fish, it keeps flopping around. There's even a cat in a pouch. Fill it for even more feline fun. Night or day, it will occupy Kitty for hours of play. Then when it's time for Kitty's nap, it turns off automatically. It flips, it flops, it gives Kitty a safe place to play instead of tearing the house away. Act now and get your Flippity Fish for just $19.99. But wait, as a special bonus, you'll get the Flippity Fishing Pole absolutely free. Just attach the Flippity Fish and cast to your hand. Your entire family can reel in on the fun. Order now and we'll double the offer. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship your entire order for free. That's 2 complete sets and free shipping for just $19.99. A perfect gift for any cat lover. So don't be a fish out of water. Order your Flippity Fish now.
To order, call 1-800-491-6899 or go online at flippityfish.com. Don't delay, call 1-800-491-6899 or go online at flippityfish.com. Order now.
When you know what to do when disaster strikes, first responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't afford to miss. Rescue 911. Next on True Crime Network. First responders jump into action. Rescue 911. Next.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
What an impressive.
A nice job.
I'm not putting Saved by the Bell on here because I don't want to get a copyright strike. I was just deleting it from the DVR.
Step out of the car, please. First responders jump into action.
Coming up next, Rescue 911.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
Now, Rescue 911 on True Crime Network.
We begin in Tipton, Iowa, on a winter's evening, shortly
Next,
before
Dr.
Christmas
G.
of
Medical
1989.
Center.
Hello, my name is Carol Edwards, and I work for a national opinion research firm.
It was early in December. We were doing a rather long survey about a nationally syndicated program, and it was getting late in the evening.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
We dial hundreds of numbers every night, and they're all computer generated.
As Carol Edwards neared the end of her shift, she placed a call more than 1,500 miles away to Tempe, Arizona, to the next number on her list.
We never know who we're calling, and the number that I dialed was an answering machine.
I don't know why you didn't call. I don't understand. Your car's in the garage. I am too. Just make sure I get back. Perfect. I'll always love you. I wish you felt the same.
Suicide saved.
I thought,
Answering machine
was this just a
delivered
joke? Because
suicide
sometimes
threat.
you do hear some
Highway
kind of unusual things during this type of work.
Justice Network.
But I had never heard a message quite like this, and I thought I'd have to listen again.
I don't know why you didn't call.
He sounded so sad, so depressed. He said the car's in the garage, and that's where I'll be.
I'll always love you.
It sounded like a suicide threat on an answering machine. I couldn't just hang up and forget about it. If I had, I'm certain it would have haunted me. It was something that I had to follow up on.
Worried about a man whose name and address she did not know, Carol went to her supervisor, Chuck Sitter.
I took down the number and called the police station in Tempe.
His call came in to 911 operator Crystal Dennis at 9:30 p.m.
This is Chuck Sitter calling. I work for a research firm outside the state. One of my interviewers was calling your area and got a hold of an answering machine that kind of sounds like a suicide threat. And I guess we don't know whether to take it serious or what, so we figured we should call somebody.
Yeah. Do you
when I first got the call, it was odd, but it wasn't that out of the ordinary. There are a lot of crank calls that 911 gets, but we're told to take these things seriously.
So I'm not here to receive your call, but if you leave a message at the sound of the tone, I'll be happy to get that with you just as soon as I get home. Bye-bye.
Sir? Yeah. So I just called that number and I got a generic type of machine and didn't sound, out of sorts at all.
I apologize.
Oh, no, hey, anytime you got something like that, we appreciate the call, don't apologize.
Okay.
But,
Well, thank you for checking into it.
no problem.
Okay,
Okay,
bye-bye.
bye-bye.
When we continue,
My greatest fear was I had no idea how long that message had been on his answering machine, and I was very concerned that if it was a serious threat, that it would be too late.
My Audible library is just like
Solid.
Says to cover
And no, you're not alone.
his family. Michael Mayfield was 7 years old when he was last seen on January 10, 1985 in Houston, Texas. His photo has been age progressed to 40 years. If you have any information that could bring Michael home, please call 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Please help bring Michael home.
I walked over to Carol's station and I informed her that I reported the number, but she had said that it was a pretty typical answering machine message. And Carol got pretty distressed.
And I said, oh, Chuck, did you hear the recording yourself? Because this was definitely not just any answering machine. And he said, no, he had not dialed that number. So I checked the call record log and discovered that it was the wrong number that I had pointed out. This is the number.
Please to help you?
Ma'am, I had just called from the phone research company.
Yes.
They had given me the wrong number. Contacted the number to it. Really, if it's a joke, it's real sick one.
Oh, okay.
The number's 3.
Chuck gave Crystal the correct phone number.
3.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't know why you didn't call. I don't understand. Your car's in the garage. I am too. Just make sure I get back. I'll always bother you.
When the end of the tape came,
I wish you felt the same.
I had hair standing up on the back of my neck.
Mr. Sitter?
Yeah.
That is fixed. And we'll send somebody out there to check on it.
Thanks so
Okay,
much.
thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Crystal traced the phone number to an address in a residential area of Tempe.
217. Did you do a
The police were immediately dispatched.
My greatest fear, if it was serious, was I had no idea how long that message had been on his answering machine. For all I know, it could have been on the machine all day. And I was very concerned that if it was a serious threat, that it would be too late.
He called this number at random, and he got an answering machine that gives a suicide threat. So we have the number traced to that address.
Police officer Allison Miller arrived at the house within 2 minutes.
I don't know just what I might find if I'm gonna walk in to find somebody that's taking a gun to his head and blowing his brains out. I know there's a message of some sort, but I don't know what the message says.
I've been playing through the house was dark.
There was music, country western song. It was loud. And hearing the music, I felt like maybe somebody was inside. Didn't get any response. So I went back across the front of the house. And in doing so, you crossed in front of the garage door. And there was noise. It sounded like maybe a car engine running, but I wasn't real sure. There was a car there, and it was running, but I still couldn't see anybody. And I still have all these questions that I don't have answered. I don't have anybody moving in the house. What could be going on? And so this sense of urgency started to build up.
Maybe police. Okay, I've got to open the back door. We're going to
Car noises real loud. So I went straight to the door that leads to the garage and opened it. The fumes were very strong in there. And then I saw the victim leaning against the car on the side. I reached into the car and turned the car off.
Fire and paramedic crews were immediately sent to the scene.
He was warm and he was breathing. I could tell he was alive. I couldn't get his hands to come free. I couldn't get him to lay back.
We're here to help you.
15 minutes after Chuck first called the Tempe police, EMTs arrived on the scene.
When we walked into the garage, we literally had to pry his fingers and hands off the car. He got pretty combative and he didn't want to have us touch him at all. He had been drinking that night. We could smell it on his breath and he was, pretty much inebriated. And knowing that it was a carbon monoxide poisoning situation, we had to get oxygen on him right away. You could see that he had been exposed for some length of time. It was just so thick in there. So we knew that he was very, very serious about killing himself.
The fact that the research firm called at just the right time is phenomenal. They don't call you every day. And the fact that they chose not to ignore what they heard and to go to the trouble to call us not once but twice, they did something extraordinary.
He's working out
Despondent
at
of a
the
recent
gym.
separation from his wife, the man had become suicidal. But his phone message could not have reached her in time. She never called him that night. After several weeks under the supervision of a psychiatrist, he is beginning to live his life again.
Looking back, it was all a nightmare. I got to the bottom of the world. I felt lost. I felt alone. And I think probably the best lesson I've learned out of this is I'm the one that's in control. I'm the one that did to myself all the hurt, all the agony that I thought other people were doing to me.
As a result of everything that happened, he has decided to move back home to the town he grew up in, where his family and friends still live.
I realized that as bad as what things might be, there's people that will listen. I had people, friends, that did care.
On his last day in town, Carol and Chuck traveled more than 1,500 miles to pay him a goodbye visit, along with Officer Miller.
I'm just so glad that I did take that message seriously, because it would have been awfully easy for me just to hang up and go on to the next number.
This message was different. This person was crying out for help.
Except for you.
I'm going to give it a good shot.
Just so glad to meet you.
So glad to meet you. I was just very happy to be able to meet him and tell him my feelings.
You're amazing.
I just hope that everything is wonderful for him in the future.
Don't mind me. I thank them all from the bottom of my heart. I thank God for having them there. Without them, I wouldn't be here today. I'm tickled pink to be alive. And if, by me telling my story, I can help someone out there before they cross the line, it will all be worthwhile.
Nearly every community has a suicide prevention center or crisis hotline available. Next.
And all of a sudden I looked up and saw the car.
She looked like she was on a suicide mission.
Men over 45.
Go all black. But they're just about the most dangerous place.
two-step walk-in telephone. Call 1-800-966-5440.
In America, we love our cars, but they're just about the most dangerous place we can be. Automobiles are the #1 cause of accidental death. The driver of the car in this reenactment is a stunt driver, but the rest of the people you'll meet are survivors who've returned to help us tell their story.
On March 23rd, 1987, at about 2 in the afternoon, a white sedan came tearing down the highway in suburban Maryland. Driving erratically as fast as 95 miles an hour, the car had crossed the border from Pennsylvania and was speeding toward Baltimore undetected. It was first spotted by Maryland State Trooper Robert Reed.
Now rescue 911.
I knew the vehicle was going 90 miles an hour, so I had to go faster than that to intercept the vehicle. I took my position for approximately a mile. I thought possibly the driver couldn't see my vehicle, so I proceeded to pull up alongside the vehicle. I observed a female. She seemed to be oblivious to everything going on around her. The only thing on her mind was driving that vehicle at that speed. I attempted a couple times to get her attention, and she never looked my way. She just stared straight ahead and kept driving the car. I realized I was not in a safe position, so I fell back.
10-4J-15. B-24 has a 1080 on channel 1. He's westbound 70 at the 71 mile mark.
I overheard the conversation, but a high-speed chase proceeding in my direction.
Undercover Maryland Police Sergeant Ken Pollock was 30 miles in front of the speeding car, headed in the opposite direction.
I pulled onto the shoulder of the road just to monitor at that particular time.
The only other officer anywhere in the area was Trooper William Wood, just a few miles ahead. He pulled into a construction zone to wait for the other car.
As she got into the construction, Trooper Wood was trying to stay in front of her to slow her down, to give me the chance to get up behind her, and then hopefully we could get her slowed down enough to where we could get her off the roadway without striking any other vehicles. It's a technique we commonly call the rolling roadblock.
While at speeds approaching 100 miles an hour, the rolling roadblock backfired. White sedan crossed the median and drove head-on into traffic.
I knew when she crossed the median strip, she was coming the wrong way. I had to make a move. It could be any type of criminal activities that they were wanted for. And at that particular point, an alarm goes off in your mind. I knew at this time that the trooper had no other assistance at that point.
Now, only minutes away from Ken Pollock, the car was splitting the oncoming cars at nearly 100 miles an hour. Ken's first plan was to drive alongside the other cars and motion them off the highway to the safety of the shoulder. But unaware of the speeding car headed in their direction, they moved right back onto the highway.
Plan B was to start stopping all the vehicles to get them away from the cars up on the embankment, knowing all the time that I had approximately 2 to 3 minutes or maybe even 4 tops to do that. I was very excited, and I was even a little annoyed because they wasn't paying heed to what I was trying to tell them. Here I am, with a 4-day growth of beard and long, scruffy hair and a dowel shirt. I probably wouldn't have stopped for him either.
David and Laura Cannon and their baby were at the front of the line in their van.
What's happening?
I saw the badge, I thought, okay. I figured it was an accident or something.
that was happening.
The only thing that was going through my head was, I have to stop this somehow.
As the car reached the open highway, it began accelerating.
The speeding car was closing on me faster than I thought it was closing on me. And I seen that the cannon van was still occupied. I knew there was only one thing that I had to do at that point, to shield them from being hit.
And all of a sudden I looked up and saw the car.
She looked like she was on a suicide mission.
When she had
Footage taped on March 23rd, 1987.
the first thought that came to my mind was the guy, whoever it was going to be in pieces. And I knew I had to get out of the van and check on whoever it was, but I didn't want to do it.
When I was struck like that, and the impact that I was struck with, in my mind, I thought that was it. I thought I was going to die. Instantaneously, your life does flash in front of you, whether you want to believe that or not. And of course, I thought of my son right away, my one child who I had lost 7 years prior to that to an automobile crash. And I just thought, well, Jeff, here I come. And that's what I thought.
A white sedan slammed against Ken's car, then head-on into a Cadillac, critically injuring 2 women.
Mayhem, that's what happened that day. Basically, when you get in that car, you're probably getting in the most dangerous weapon that can be provided to you.
The driver of the speeding car was seriously injured. The driver's sister.
The main thing I want people to understand about that day is this was not the kind of thing my sister would have done ever in the past. The fact of it is, it was an ordinary person who just had some medical issues that caused some depression, some actions that were very out of the ordinary for her. She remembers that she had a feeling that things were out of control, but she didn't know how to get them back into control.
Because of the driver's acute depression, she was not found criminally responsible for the accident. No one was killed. The Cannons and their baby, whose van had been directly in the path of the speeding car, were not injured.
It's one thing to lay your life down for your friend or someone you know, care for very deeply, but for an absolute stranger, someone you have never seen before or will never see probably again, to do that is quite something else.
Ken Pollock was a hero, but the impact of the white sedan broke his nose, gave him permanent back problems and a long-term concussion.
I would say that definitely the accident has ended my career as Maryland State Police. It really does upset me because that's the only thing I ever loved to do. I was doing something that I knew that had to be done.
He will retire this year after 20 years as a cop.
At Guild.com, get insider access to coveted designer. Like now.
Car stolen with baby inside, auto wreck. So this is car kidnapped babies, sober and saved.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened. For most of us, our worst fears live only in our imagination. But Denise Gullis saw hers come true on the afternoon of June 21st, 1987, near her home in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Oh, this story takes place in Louisiana. Because I live in Louisiana, and Lafayette is probably like maybe an hour from me.
We stopped at a local gas station. When I pulled up to a pump closest to the entrance. I got out alone at first and left the kids in the car. I went in and just handed the attendant my credit card, told him I was going to fill up.
What you doing?
Dustin got out of the back seat, and when I started pumping the gas, he went to the driver's window and was playing with Missy and talking to her through the window. It was a very hot day, and I intended on leaving her in the car long enough to go in and sign a ticket. So I decided I would go ahead and start the car and turn on the air conditioner so that she would be cool in the car.
So, here's your card now, sign the explanation, Mayor.
I signed my name and turned around and my car was gone. It was gone. I felt like I'd just been hit by a truck. And it wasn't the car. It was the fact that my baby was in it.
When we continue.
At that particular time, it was really growing slim. From 30 minutes to an hour, if you don't find the child, your odds are very slim.
Dog hair and more. It's in pillow. Fur daddy. Let it build up. Oh.
Went home late?
Gas station attendant Don Stansfield immediately ran outside to see which way the stolen car was going.
We were less than a quarter of a mile south of an east-west interstate highway, which once on there, you could have gone just about any place.
911, what is your emergency?
At 4:16 p.m., a call came in reporting that Denise's 6-month-old baby Missy had been kidnapped. The information was immediately relayed to the Lafayette Police Department.
705 Northwest Frontage Road. Stolen vehicle is a 1987 Chevrolet Celebrity.
While waiting for the police to arrive, Denise called her husband Austin.
The phone rang and I answered it, and it was Denise just screaming at the top of her lungs. And she told me that somebody had stolen her car and Missy was still in it. And I raced across town and the whole time I'm driving, just what in the world is going on? And it was about a 20-minute drive. I made it in about 8 minutes.
The police had arrived even before Austin, but the stolen car was long gone, leaving no clues as to who the kidnapper was or where he was headed.
We stayed there just a few minutes. I don't really recall exactly what took place, but I remember one of the officers telling me to come follow him to the police station. We'll go down there and y'all can wait down there.
At the police station, they were interviewed by Detective Robert Hensel.
When I was talking to the parents, trying to more or less calm them down. What's being done? We're doing. And all the time I'm thinking, okay, 20 minutes have passed. This man could be 20 miles away. At that particular time, it was really growing slim. From 30 minutes to an hour, if you don't find the child, your odds are very slim.
And I felt like he was getting away and they weren't going to find him in time. And I paced the floor in that little room, waiting and praying.
Detective Hensel put out an all-points bulletin, complete with a description of baby Missy and the car, to every police department within 100 miles of the city.
At that particular time, that's all we could do. And it's just a waiting game from that point because we had done really and truly everything we could do in searching the area.
Less Less than a half hour later, Thelma and Sanders Wyatt were 15 miles outside Lafayette, on their way to visit family.
We noticed a car had stopped on the side of the road.
That makes me
So I told my husband, I said, it's a funny place to stop there for if he has trouble. So as we were getting closer, he went around and he got in the car and just left off. So when we passed where he had stopped, I saw some things scattered in the ditch.
I think I saw something. Santa, stop.
I said stop and back up. I want to see.
Okay, stop. There is something.
And I jumped out of the car and picked up the baby. And then I said, I can't hold her anymore. I was so nervous and the baby was screaming. So there was a truck coming down the road. I said, flag them down and they're gonna help us. Because I was afraid to stay there with the baby by myself. I was afraid that man would come back.
Local police and paramedics from St. Martin were sent to the scene. The baby girl was not injured. There was no way of knowing who she was, but they did notice she was wearing one corrective shoe. Aware of the All Points bulletin about a missing baby in Lafayette, rescue workers contacted the police there.
Hey Brenda, what do you got on the phone?
St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office.
And they described the exact clothing that the mother had given her. And when I went in and told the mother, the descriptions matched. It was just like, she was hysterical again, but it was different. She was crying, but to me she had like maybe tears of joy. It was happiness.
As soon as I walked in the front door, I heard her crying. And there was a nurse, and I immediately ran up to the nurse and just took her from her. And I remember hearing somebody behind me saying, it's okay, she's the mama. I felt like I was never gonna put her down. I just wanted to hold her.
It was just a total feeling of it's over and there's no more pain, nothing to worry about. She's okay, she's fine. I can't describe how it's almost as bad as the hopeless feeling to start with. Just a feeling of joy, I guess, that she's all right. Everything's gonna be all right.
No one was ever convicted of the kidnapping of baby Missy. 3 years have passed, but for the Gullidge family, the memories are still
Looks
there.
like they're fishing
I don't
in a
want anybody
boat.
to feel what I felt that day. And it's not something that
But
I
if 3 years have passed,
I
she
think
looks
about
like
it
she's a
every
toddler
day.
now.
You never leave a child alone in a car. And it's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. And I wanna scare somebody so that it doesn't happen to them.
Missy and her family had grown close to Thelma and Sanders Wyatt.
I
Looks like
realized
it's
that if it
Christmas
weren't
time.
for the Wyatts,
It's decorating
it would
Christmas
have been days, if not weeks, before she was found. And she would not have survived in that ditch. I love her just like my grandchild. I feel just like, she was like mine. Like she was my grandchild, or even more, because I saved her life.
And my mama, she said that every day she thanked God for nosy people. Because if she wouldn't have been nosy, we probably wouldn't have Missy here today.
Next.
When I approached the truck, I saw her laying between the bench seat and the dash. There was a surge of fear in me that I wouldn't be able to get to her.
This is Megan Davies. You guys ready?
Coming up next on True Crime Network.
One of the greatest gifts we have is the ability to choose. And there are
Car
times when the
stolen
choices we
with
make not only
baby
grasp the
inside
effect our
auto
lives,
wreck.
but also those
So
around
this
us.
is
As
sober
Jody
and
Woods of Mountain
safe
Center, California,
car
discovered on
kidnapping.
the evening of September 30th, 1990.
A lot of people die from drinking and driving, more than the statistics know. I've seen millions of couples die. I've seen whole families die in one automobile accident, and all off alcohol. Just gotta wonder when it's gonna stop.
About 100 yards down the road, park maintenance supervisor Randy Higgins and his brother Scott had just returned home.
Well, that's the impact. Then we just threw on our shoes and grabbed a flashlight, ran out the door.
Their neighbor, Park Ranger Ed Salas, also heard the crash.
You guys hear that?
Yeah. We went right up the hill towards the sound of the impact. And when we hit the crest of the hill, we could see the truck. And as we approached the truck, it jumped into flames. And he went up to get a fire extinguisher and my brother Scott to call 911. When I approached the truck and looked through the driver's side door, I saw her laying between the bench seat and the dash. There was a surge of fear in me that I wouldn't be able to get to her.
At 11:54 p.m., Scott's call came into 911.
Highway 74 where? Anyone injured? Is anybody? I was there, so it's car and my father. I sit here. The only thing I got. Stay on the line, I'm gonna call for a fire break.
In front of the Key Train car, at 2350.
Riverside County rescue units were immediately dispatched.
When I grabbed the back door and it opened, I was afraid the flames were going to flash the whole cab of the truck. Once I got her out of the truck, pulled her down the highway about 30 or 40 feet. I reached down to feel that she was breathing, and I could feel her breathing at that point. She started talking about her son, and I was afraid that he might still be in the truck. Went back to take a look, but by that time there was no going back into the truck.
Campers staying in the park began to gather at the scene. Randy was trying to comfort Jody and assess her injuries when Ed returned with the fire extinguisher.
By the time I got back up there, the whole truck was engulfed in flames.
Randy! Randy! Over here, Eddie. She's alive.
It was apparent that she was burnt real bad. Both her legs had signs of severe burns, and her ankle was obviously broken. So my thought was to just keep her from moving around until the paramedics showed up.
I'm Eddie. She was calling out for her son Eddie, and I thought maybe that the child was with her in the accident. So I turned around again and ran up the road looking for a child or other vehicles involved.
I need people who have flashlights. Any of you have flashlights? Come with me, the rest of you please stay back.
Jody's son was later found to be safe at home with his father. Paramedic Brian Moore was among the first to arrive.
We arrived on scene to find a large pickup truck that was laying against a rock with flames exceeding 15 feet high, and one patient laying on the ground.
Yeah. Come on, get that fire.
And I was extremely surprised to see that she was even still alive once I saw the flames and the debris that surrounded the accident. The gas tanks were rupturing, you could see gas coming out of the vehicle, and the flames were licking at the power lines that were above us. My initial concern was to move her out of the way of the gasoline and out of the power lines as fast as possible.
All right, let's get out of here, man.
We could smell the alcohol in her breath. And she said, I'm so sorry, I made a big mistake.
Once the paramedics drove away with her, it was that relief. That she was on her way to the hospital being cared for by professionals. But there was still not knowing that she was going to make it.
She had a large amount of burns throughout her body, also complaining of a lot of pain in her abdomen and having repetitive questioning that was similar to somebody who's having a head injury. Our nearest burn center being 2.5 hours away, air transport was the only logical alternative.
Riverside County, Medic 53. I need a helicopter dispatched to Lake Hemet. I need a patient transported to a burn center.
Plans were made for the Riverside Medical Air Transport Chopper to meet the ambulance at a nearby parking lot. The victim's mother, Marilyn Sabin, was also called.
The phone call came in from my friend Jill, who her husband's a volunteer fireman. But she said Marilyn Jody has been hurt in an accident, and being that it was, an airback situation, I really thought the worst. I ran over to the ambulance, and when I looked in the back window, she was in there. So I pounded on it and told him I was her mother, could I please come in? And he told me I would have to be very calm and I wanted to come in with her.
Deep breath, because she needs your support. Okay, I'm take your time coming in. Watch your head coming in. Jody!
I saw her face and she was extremely pale. I could see her legs sticking out, that it was broken. Her head was bleeding and she just started crying and telling me she was sorry. I'm so sorry, and she would say, please just hold me, touch me somewhere, and she was really scared herself that she was not going to make it. For a parent, this is horrifying. I kept thinking, don't let her hurt too bad until we can get her somewhere to help her.
There was no room on the helicopter for Jody's mother, so she could only watch helplessly as her daughter was taken away.
She had such a waxy, pasty look to her. I just knew that she was going to die, and I didn't want to not tell her that I loved her before, anything should happen.
At the hospital, Jody was treated for second and third degree burns and underwent surgery to repair her fractured leg. After 7 weeks, she was allowed to go home to her 3-year-old son and her husband, Darren.
I can't really imagine life without her. She's my wife. She's very special to me. We're a very close family. Jody is an excellent mother. She's taught me patience and kindness with Eddie that I've never known.
The drinking and driving are the hardest thing for me to deal with. I feel selfish for doing that. I feel awful about that. I feel that I really took a chance of hurting so many people. I'm so glad that people like Randy are around.
Jody and her family got to thank Randy personally.
I just couldn't believe that he would be willing to get in this vehicle that was on fire and to bring her out.
Fantastic. I was the first one there. And you walk up to a situation where somebody needs your help and they can't help themselves. I had to do it.
I think Randy is responsible for saving my life. I think I'm responsible for almost losing my life. I got a second chance. I get to try again, and that's pretty fortunate.
We went through some problems, and she's back to her old self now. She's plenty glad to be alive, and I'm very, very glad to have her here.
Do loose batteries clutter up your house? Is finding the right size impossible? And why do they always waste precious space? What you need is the Battery Daddy storage system. The new compact and portable way to organize, store, and protect all your batteries. Turn any disaster into an organized master. Battery Daddy uses both sides to store all types of different batteries, even coin size. The unique design groups them for easy selection. You can even find one with a blindfold on. Best of all, it packs 180 batteries, yet takes up about the space of a laptop. Perfect in any cabinet, drawer, or shelf. Forget flimsy bags or messy containers. Battery Daddy stays organized forever guaranteed. And the carrying handle lets you bring it anywhere. Use it during power outages and never go searching in the dark. Select the right battery for kids' toys in an instant. Or tackle household chores with the precision of a pro. Watch out, loose batteries can touch and drain power. Not with Battery Daddy. They stay fully charged and protected in their own compartment. Keep one in the house and one in the office, boat, or RV to organize, store, and protect all your batteries. Plus, the clear locking lid lets you see everything at a glance. Amazing! Act now to get your Battery Daddy for just $19.99. And here's an electrifying deal. We'll include the battery tester, so you'll instantly know which batteries are bad and which are good, saving you time and money. Yours absolutely free. And the battery blues with Battery Daddy for just $19.99. Call now.
To order, call 1-800.
I think I'd like to get that Battery Daddy. Never saw it advertised before. Okay, one more episode of Rescue 911. Icy river, sudden death. An 11-year-old boy falls through the ice.
This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Unless indicated, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
For dispatchers and emergency centers across the country, each call brings the voice of a person in trouble, and each response may save a life. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of miraculous recoveries and tragic loss on Rescue 911.
The Red River divides Fargo, North Dakota from Moorhead, Minnesota. Most of this footage was taped along its frozen banks on December 4th, 1987. In the snow at the river's edge, 11-year-old Junior Garza and his 9-year-old brother Joey were out playing with a couple of friends. They found a dead squirrel lying frozen in the snow. When a throw landed the squirrel 75 feet out of the frozen river, they dared each other to go get it.
I dare you for nothing. Oh, you go.
I'll dare you.
I'll go, but you're gonna give me a 3-piece crack.
Finally, Junior Garza agreed to go out into the ice. The river looked frozen solid, but the ice was only 2 inches thick.
Junior, come back. We're gonna fall in. Junior, don't go.
I seen the ice that he was sliding on, and that's when he fell through the ice. He went up and down about 2 times, and then he went all the way down.
When we continued,
With the equipment that we had, we weren't prepared for that rescue. You have to break the ice and then get to the place where that individual has fallen in.
Hi, have you ever heard of Beachbody On Demand? Hold on a second. Here is your free membership. I'm Carl Deichler, the CEO of Beachbody, and I just sent a free membership to another customer. And I'm giving away 10,000 free memberships this week to anyone who texts me right now to join the largest fitness community in the world, the Beachbody On Demand Fitness and Nutrition app. It gives you instant access to all of our best-selling fitness programs like 21 Day Fix, Insanity, P90X, T25, and PiYo, plus hundreds of other workouts and classes streaming right to your smartphone, tablet, or computer. We're now even on your TV, streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Chromecast, and Apple TV. There's no other fit you can keep.
And have a great... No wonder.
They reported a child in the river.
the mother, and Clark Longy to call.
It's free at Target, CVS, or Amazon. Get relief today.
Joey Garza ran to get the mother, and Clark Longy to call for help. The call to 911 came in at 4:14 p.m.
Emergency center. Incoming 211, Have reported a child in the river. He's gone from Riverview Heights. No further information.
Within 4 minutes, firemen from Moorhead arrived with a boat. The boy was already trapped somewhere in the freezing cold water under the ice.
We're basically confronted with homelessness. His mother was out there screaming and hollering. Very, very, very.
Rescue workers from both sides of the river began a desperate search for the boys.
With the equipment that we had, we weren't prepared for that rescue. Because you gotta get on the ice, you have to break the ice, and then get to the place where that individual has fallen in.
The river was so murky you could probably see 2 or 3 inches down into the river. It was a matter of concentrating on the river bottom and try and feel for something different, something unusual.
The work was backbreaking and dangerous. If a rescuer fell into the 32-degree water, he would be risking his own life.
They were really intense. One guy in the front of the boat usually was trying to hold the boat's location with the pole, and then the guys in the back of the boat were searching the water.
You're working and the time is going fast, but then in your own mind you're keeping track, and it just seemed like it had been too long for any type of a survivable rescue.
The boy had been under more than 30 minutes. The light was failing, the temperature was dropping rapidly, and hope was wearing thin.
It was getting dark. There was some talk about who was going to call the rescue attempt and make it a body recovery either that night still or later on.
But one of the firemen had read about cold water drownings He knew that a few children had survived more than half an hour without breathing if the water was cold enough.
Harold was the biggest factor out there on the ice that day. We've still got time, we've still got time, he kept saying. I didn't know if they had any more time. I didn't know if the boy had any more time. We had all night, but I didn't know if the boy had any more time. I felt something unusual on the end of the pole. Something soft, something different.
Blue almost to the point of being purple. It's like picking up a water balloon.
The boy had been under the icy water for 45 minutes. He was clearly dead.
At that point, I didn't think he had much chance of survival. I wouldn't have been on even a resuscitation, because I did not feel that he would have had a resuscitatable brain.
He was rushed to St. Luke's Hospital, where a team of medical specialists was waiting, headed by Dr. William Norberg.
At 5 o'clock, an 11-year-old child was brought to the emergency room at St. Luke's Hospital. Until we give up all hope of his survival, we will keep him on maximal support, keep him on ventilators, and do whatever medical miracles we currently seem to be able to do to keep him going.
They opened his chest and put him on total life support. His body temperature was 77 degrees. He had no heartbeat, no respiration, no brain activity.
In your mind, it said, this is much worse than I had thought. His heart didn't beat. I mean, it just laid there, and it did nothing, and it was stiff and hard and cold. We pumped the blood from the heart-lung machine through a special filter, and gradually, with the warming of the body and warming of the heart-lung machine, it sort of pinked up in color, and all of a sudden sort of started to beat. We can make a body survive, but sometimes we come out with brain-dead patient.
By the next morning, the nation was waiting for each new update on the boy's condition, hoping that he would be all right.
At about midnight, he moved his feet a little bit, and at 2 o'clock, he responded to touch a little bit. And today, he seems to be responding to sound and the verbal stimuli.
When Junior opened his eyes, I thought that he was remembering what had happened under the water. He closed his eyes and he was crying. I was crying, but they didn't want him to see me.
2.5 weeks later, just before Christmas, Junior Garza was released from the hospital.
I can't wait to get home and back to school. Merry Christmas, everybody.
That was the nicest Christmas we had ever had. The nicest one, because I had Junior home with me.
One year later, Junior has fully
Junior's
recovered.
riding his bike 1 year later.
Good things do happen, where a lot of people work very
Playing
hard,
ball
try very hard, care very much, and maybe that's what a miracle truly is.
I think I'm really lucky because he pulled me out of the river and I had a second chance at life.
Thanks to all the rescuers whose commitment and courage made a whole life possible.
Next,
basically had a sudden short-circuiting electrical system in his heart. He had sudden death. He keeled over.
Uh-oh, that food container won't contain your food, so you mess with cling wraps and foil, hoping food won't spoil. Well, not anymore. Now there's Stretch and Fresh containers, the amazing food storage containers with don't go pet peas.
Chances are that someone you know will suffer a heart attack this year. Will you be able to help save a life? What you're about to see is not a recreation. It's the reality of heart failure in America.
Every day in Houston, 911 gets 3 to 4 calls for cardiac arrest emergencies.
Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to take the heel of your hand and put it in the center of the gentleman's chest, okay? Right between the nipples.
Someone has to start CPR within the first 4 minutes.
Put one hand on top of the other hand.
Electrical shock has to be done within the next 3 or 4 minutes.
The ambulance is coming, okay? Just continue doing the CPR, okay?
If you go beyond either of those 2 time limits, the chances of survival fall dramatically.
They're there? Okay. All right, bye-bye.
Dr. Paul Pepe is Director of Emergency Medical Services for the City of Houston. A hands-on supervisor in the 911 centers, the field, and trauma centers.
MD1 to ambulance 58, what's your application right now?
Even in the best of systems, the fastest you can get anybody to you is about 3.5 to 4 minutes from the time of a collapse.
Houston Fire and Ambulance, what's your emergency?
Yes, need an ambulance. The lady across the street there's a gentleman in the car who's having a heart attack. I had the same idea. I was walking up the door, the lady said to call 911.
You don't know whether you're breathing or not.
No, I do not know.
MD1, go with 33.
When Dr. Pepe arrives at the scene, 3 cardiac arrest teams are working on 49-year-old Walter McLeod in his front yard.
He basically had a sudden short-circuiting electrical system in his heart. He had sudden death. He keeled over.
Go to CPR. That's fine. We wait for this, right?
Yeah, whenever it kicks up.
That's fine. Let's do that.
If we can get the breaker, we'll be good.
I want to ask me after we get the FDM, okay? Let's go. Don't lose that line. Then squeeze the back in, try and lift the arm up in the air. Good, yeah. Don't lose the line, lift the arm up in the air. Squeeze the bag in, run for 3 seconds. Now get it. Okay. Is it running good? Okay, stop CPR and stop bagging. Okay. Stop. Okay. Go ahead. You got pulse it down? Yeah. Good. Okay. Keep doing CPR, let's get a strong radio.
He just slumped over in the car. We got him out and gave him CPR. Is he breathing?
How you getting out, Neil?
I got a radio.
Okay, good. Okay, we got it. Okay, start getting the blood pressure. Okay. Start to take a breath. Yeah, there you go.
When he collapsed over, his friend did CPR immediately. And basically balked the paramedics the 3 or 4 minutes they needed to get there. And when they arrived, took 1 shot, and they had brought him back to life.
What, Dexter?
We got a big fusion over to do that?
Yeah. Both ways up, too.
Once Walter's condition stabilized, he is taken to Bentop Trauma Center. Inside the shock room, an EKG of the heart is taken to find the source of the problem.
It looks like he's having a heart attack in the bottom part of his heart. we can actually probably have things under control at this point. And you see he's talking to you. Here's a man that what half an hour ago was dead at the end of his life, and he's not with us.
Paramedic Charles Martin brings Walter's friend, Ethel Key Kendall, up to date on his condition.
We got him back. It's going to be a little while. Pastor here is going to be with you to answer some questions. But, things are looking good, but I'm not going to give you no false hopes. It's going to take some time, okay? And appreciate the information. And I want you to take care of yourself, all right? Take care. Take care.
3 years ago, his chances of surviving this event would be nil because we didn't have a communication system in place. We didn't have the priority dispatching in place. We didn't have the whole team effort that we have now.
It's a treatable disease process. If you get there in time before the brain is damaged, you can deliver the therapy, the intervention rapidly, you can make a big difference.
Another call for a cardiac arrest. A man has lost so much blood from the wound, his only hope is to get to the hospital and into surgery as quickly as possible.
This is the only wound we have.
Inside the ambulance, they continue to work on it.
Let's go! We did. Yes, CPR is in progress. Don't have trauma teams down, we have possible short competencies.
When they arrive at Benton, the patient has no real pulse, respiration, or blood pressure. They have not given up, but time is running out.
Turn the lights on, nothing here, guys. What are pupils look like?
They're about 4, no reaction, 5, no reaction.
Good. 10:40.
At 10:40 p.m., he's pronounced dead.
It's hard, we'll probably think about this again tomorrow or tonight, and he was a young man in his 30s, and he may have been deprived of 50 years of life, and it's something that we'll never know, we'll never know now what could have been. All we know is we did our best.
If you take a fatalistic view, when people have a lethal injury, we figure we basically lost the case to begin with. But now, as many as 1 out of 10 of those people who are essentially not breathing, not pulsing, end of their life, have been brought back into living because of the system of care we set up here.
2 weeks later, Walter McLeod is ready to go home.
I don't remember anything. As if somebody had took a baseball bat and just knocked me out. It was just a black, dark world to me. Y'all be good. After I came home, I could see where the grass had been trampled down where I was in the front yard. They brought me back to life. And I'm thankful to them and to my very dear friend, Isabel. She tried to bring me back herself out there.
They told me that I did all the right things, and if I had been 2 minutes later, that Walter would not have survived.
And they say, if you can learn to jumpstart your car, you can learn to jumpstart a life. And she jump-started my life all over.
3/4 of the cardiac arrests occur in the home, in areas where you're around friends or someone you know or love. And so we encourage that everybody learns CPR, essentially, because that's part of the system. The system is not just ambulances. The system is not just paramedics, doctors, and hospitals. It is the community when it comes to heart disease.
Just happy that he survived. Oh, yes, because he was a goner. Sure as God knows. He died a couple of times on us, but he's back. He's with us.
If you are interested in learning CPR,
They're
contact the
playing
newest chapter
checkers
of the American Red
at
Cross.
the end of this episode. Okay, there's gonna be more live streams later. I'm gonna take a nap and recharge my iPad. Thanks for watching.